Welcome to Superhero Pow. I'm your host nerd, Tom Fremgen. Today I wanted to talk about cool forgotten stuff. You see, everyone loves Star Wars. Yeah, I know that's kind of debatable these days, but just go with me on this. Everybody loves Star Wars. Well, before Star Wars, there was another Star Wars, in quotes, that nearly everyone has forgotten about, even though it was a big influence on George Lucas himself. See, when people usually talk about the fictional inspirations for Star Wars, they always mention Flash Gordon, the Japanese film The Hidden Fortress, and of course Dune. So many people I see credit Dune for Star Wars. And while yes, George Lucas was inspired by Dune, and others, there's another sci-fi that really matches what George was going for, and that's Lensman. Seems most people haven't even heard of Lensman, probably because it's been out of print since the 1990s, rights issues. And I'll be honest with you, it's not really an easy read, because not only is the science in it outdated, the first chapters were written in 1937, and they talk about space being filled with ether. The actual prose is overly dense and clunky too. So Lensman really isn't for the faint of heart. But it's also the basis for modern science fiction, and moreover, space opera, which the Lensman writer, Doc E.E. Smith, is credited for being the father of. Before Lensman, sci-fi was basically space fantasy. John Carter, Buck Rogers, Flash Gordon, etc. After the Lensman, we got The Foundation, StarShip Troopers, and then Dune in 1963. Lensman was basically the first real look at governments and civilizations in space with aliens and realistic tech. Based on the science of the time, mind you. But with all of that, Lensman is still a heroic fantasy. So its place in history is kind of interesting in that you have a universe like Dune and Starship Troopers, but the main character is more like John Carter and Flash Gordon. So Lensman is right in the middle of heroic fantasy and space opera, which is pretty much what Star Wars is. Lensman tells the tale of intergalactic wars between the good guys, the poorly named Civilization, basically the Federation for you Star Trek fans, and the bad guys, Boscone, who were originally just thought to be space pirates. But as the story progresses, we learn they are a malevolent empire from another galaxy. And scratching the surface deeper, both Civilization and the Boscone are pawns in a battle between two hyper-evolved races. Races who have basically moved beyond physical bodies, using their vast psychic powers to interact with the world, so to speak, around them. These two races are known as the Arisians and the Adorians. And yes, I think Adorians sounds a little bit like Endor. I'll even note that in early drafts of Star Wars, the good side of the Force was referred to as Arisland, or Aslan, which seems like a nod to the Arisians. And the dark side of the Force was the Bogan, which, seems like a nod to Boscone. Now, the Arisians are outnumbered in this war, so they set the human race on a course, with gentle nudging, into a breeding plan until they develop into a race that can defeat the Adorians. Around the time of the first book, they have created the Lensmen for Civilization's Galactic Patrol. With wristwatch-looking devices called lenses, these elite of the elite galactic patrolmen can now use ESP powers. As the books progress, the lenses become unnecessary as the main hero and others become second-stage lensmen. And in the fourth book, The Children of the Lens, the main character's children are basically born as second-stage lensmen, as the final conflict between the Arisians and the Adorians is set to begin. You can see how this mirrors Anakin Skywalker giving way to Luke Skywalker. But now, thanks to Disney, it seems we'll never know what Lucas was planning for the next generation of Skywalkers, or the function of the wills, which kind of sadly mirrors the Lensman series itself, as Doc E.E. Smith passed away before writing the theoretical sixth and final book, which was said to deal with the children of the lens. Oh, and for you few Lensman nerds out there, I'm not counting Triplanetary, as that book was written before the Lensman series and then later, rewritten to be a precursor to the Lensman series. And that does lead me to my next point. You see, the Lensman series also does something else that's very Star Wars, a prequel. After the 4 main books were written, Galactic Patrol in 1937, The Gray Lensman in 1939, Second Stage Lensman in 1941, and then The Children of the Lens in 1947, Doc E.E. Smith steps back in time to tell the story of the creation of the Galactic Patrol and the Lensmen with the first Lensman in 1950, whose main characters would be the relatives of the main characters in the first book, the Galactic Patrol. And not for nothing, I'll mention that the plot of the first book of the Lensmen, the Galactic Patrol, the plot focuses on the heroes trying to get starship design plans from the bad guys and bring it back to the Galactic Patrol's headquarters to figure out how to defeat the enemy warships. And then, of course, the end of the book deals with the destruction of the big Boscone base. So, a little bit of New Hope in there. Now, Star Wars is by no means a copy of the Lensman. But you can see some of the parallels between the Jedi and the Sith with the Lensman and the Boscone, whose high-level officials were also powerful espers as well. And as shown in the prequels, where the Force-wielding Jedi were the intergalactic peacekeepers of the Republic, so are the esper-powered Lensmen of civilization. I also think the revelation of midichlorians was Lucas taking a step closer to the Lensman universe, as he was hinting at something going beyond the space fantasy of the first 3 movies. I believe Star Wars was meant to ride the fence between space fantasy and science fiction, much like the Lensman. Lastly, I'll toss in that, though more typically called beamers, laser guns could also be referred to as blasters in Lensmen as well. And to top it all off, if you want to see the snake eating itself, you can watch the anime film Lensman, and to a lesser degree the series, which adapts the first Lensman book and interjects a lot of Star Wars influence back into it. But if you're not a stickler for faithful adaptations, the movie is quite good. Anyway, what do you think? Have you read the Lensman series? Do you think it's the forgotten sci-fi inspiration for Star Wars? Or am I just making a mountain out of a molehill here? Either way, thanks for spending time with me, talking up classic sci-fi. And if you could be so kind to like, subscribe, and notify, I promise not to accuse you of being a traitor and part of the Rebel Alliance. Unless you're into that.